So on the Big 12 specifically, West Virginia, how specific is their interest here? How much does their interest matter when it comes to realignment? You think about some of those regional rivalries that are close to them, Pitt, Virginia Tech. Shoot, I know it's not like a huge rivalry that I've ever remembered, but I mean, even go back to the Big East, Louisville and West Virginia was really big. I think that one would be a ton of fun to get back into it. As a Big East homer back in the day, I know they don't probably make a lot of sense. I'd love for USF to somehow get back in there because there were some really fun ones with West Virginia and USF and Louisville and Cincinnati even. But all that, and obviously UCF. Just thoughts on West Virginia and how their thoughts around this. Can they impact any of this in getting some of that back and around?
I think one day we're going to look back on the Wizard of Oz movie. Wizard of Oz? What is the Wizard of Oz movie? And when the college football version of it comes out, the realignment Wizard of Oz, and you pull the curtain back, what if Oz was just West Virginia the whole time? What if they were the great orchestrator of truly the downfall of the ACC? I think we forget the power West Virginia has as a brand in college football still. Even when they aren't as good on the playing field, they stick out to pretty much all of America because if there's one thing that state is driven on in sports, it's West Virginia football. I mention it a lot. I'm from Arkansas, grew up in a super small town. The only thing we had was football, sports, Arkansas Razorback Saturday mornings. And at West Virginia, it's the same thing in that you could not build a team of 22, 25, 30 football players who are competitive enough to compete just from that state alone. They've always had to work different, recruit outside of the state and go get great players from Florida, from Texas, from Ohio, from Pennsylvania, and make it work. They have so much, not just brand power, but savvy that goes overlooked consistently in the realm of college football. And now what's going to ignite that program to its full potential will be the resurgence of Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, West Virginia being in play here. Cincinnati, they've already got a Louisville, West Virginia matchup. And the reason it helps them maximize their full potential, they'll have these regional rivalries and they'll do it in a power conference. They'll do it with a major TV deal with the entire nation watching. That was a thing 20 years ago. West Virginia, they were on your TV when they played 15 years ago, LSU in Death Valley, and then hosted them in Morgantown. Those were massive matchups and gave the school a lot of pomp and circumstance. You haven't heard much in the last 10 years, but today, Ren Baker signing again. He's extending his contract as athletic director after passing up on the Oklahoma AD job to go back home to his roots. Him saying, I'm a Mountaineer man, shows me something big is going on at WVU. And I think what that is trying to help the Big 12 in gathering Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, these more regional schools. Because think about this, TJ. For years, this powerful brand like West Virginia that most people know, and they represent an entire state and have maybe the most loyal fan base in all of college sports, they have not just been underrepresented, but they have been alone in the Big 12 conference. You can't drive to really a single location of the Big 12. Oh, West Virginia, massive matchup with Oklahoma State, massive matchup with Texas or TCU or Houston. None of those made any sense. They were the outlier. Still an important, powerful brand, but how is your fan base as passionate and loyal as they are? How is your fan base able to really get up for West Virginia Baylor or West Virginia and Kansas State? It's just not something that's natural for them, not natural for the school. So I think the closer we get to the ACC falling apart, the more you see West Virginia being the school on the prowl that's trying to spearhead these conversations and grab regional matchups. Something hit me in a dream last night. I was like, what if it's West Virginia we've been overlooking all along as the school who's going to come out on top, maybe more than anyone else when the whole thing falls apart? And I've even heard that if the SEC goes to 22 to 24, that short list probably has West Virginia on there. Another state, another tick, another brand that conference could add. They bring so much more to the table that I'm sure anyone really gives them credit for.
I'll get right back to the video, but if you are jacked for college football, which is just weeks away, make sure that you are stocked up at alumnihall.com. You can use our code CFA15 for 15% off of the very best brands like Nike, Columbia, Cutter and Buck, Jordan on certain schools. Make sure that you're shopping at Alumni Hall for all of your college football gear. They support several teams that we talk about, several that we don't as much, but alumnihall.com or in person, CFA 15 will save you 15% on your order. Go check them out today. Yeah, they feel, and I don't want West Virginia fans to take this as a dig because I loved watching West Virginia. I hated their team because I was a USF guy living in Tampa, but I feel like West Virginia is almost so forgotten. You know, people forget really how great some of those teams were going back to the 2000s and prior, and even into the late 2000s. Yeah, 2010, early there too, and they feel because they don't feel, and this isn't a Big 10 shot or Big 12 shot. Sorry. They just don't feel like they match up. Like you were mentioning the Baylors and the Kansas States, like they feel like a fish out of water. Right. And I feel like maybe you could say the same for UCF, although it was such a big jump up for them to get to go to the Power Five, the Power Five at that point. That maybe it's a little different, but they just don't seem to fit that. If you could add in it's like sitting at a lunch table by yourself, right? If you could add in some of your buddies, though, imagine going like you go to school. School's about to start back next week, thank the Lord. But you go to school and like all your friends are in the other class. And all your friends are like having fun on the playground and sitting around the lunch table together, and you don't get to do any of that. How much more do you thrive with all your buddies around you, right? Like, or all your enemies, I guess, because all those are rivalries. But I think we understand the thought of, man, how much more could West Virginia be with some of that regionality back into what made them great? And they're such a great fan base, right? I don't think anybody argues that. But, hopefully with a hire, bringing Rich Rod back, hopefully with stability in the athletic department, that's a big deal. But man, just having some of those rivalries back, having things that, if you're a casual fan, how much do you really care to tune into West Virginia versus Baylor? Right? Like, how much do you really care?
I went to Baylor, and I don't either.
Yeah, but if we could watch West Virginia Louisville right now, or West Virginia Virginia Tech, or West Virginia Pitt, all of those, I think the average fan would tune in. And then what does that do for their ratings? What does that do for their recruiting? What does that do for their status? What does that do for their fan base, right? You're more jacked up about going to some of these games than you are about some of the other ones. So, yeah, I think it'd be a massive win for West Virginia. Again, we're probably a couple of years off because we talked about, in a previous segment, we talked about UNC and Florida State and Clemson, and obviously those are going to be the first dominoes to fall. But when other dominoes start falling, what does the ramifications mean for each conference? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know about every single conference specifically, but when you look at West Virginia in specifics, I think it could be massive for them to get some of these teams in here.
Yeah, it's going to be huge for the Big 12, too, to stay alive. And I know that this conference is as strong as it's been without Texas and Oklahoma today, stronger than it has been since those two left and Bob Bowlesby was in charge. But then when you have Pitt and West Virginia, which is one of the great rivalries of college football, a very historic and blue-collar rivalry, or West Virginia and Louisville bringing back an old rivalry, or even having USF. So, and then that's a whole Pandora's box, but having USF down the line as one of those brands that the Big 10, the Big 12 jockey over and try to grab when everything really starts to clump together and we have college football Pangea. You're going to bring back some of what we love about college football. And from there, Brett Yormark can really start to specialize this conference and say, hey, if you're Baylor, let's build a schedule where every year you play Houston, TCU, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. If you're West Virginia, every year you play Cincinnati, Louisville, Pitt, Virginia Tech. The protected rivalries get to be deeper and stronger to the point where now West Virginia doesn't have to play Arizona. West Virginia doesn't have to play Utah or Kansas State if they don't really want to. You have the opportunity to create a league where you get back what we loved about college football, and that was regionality. The Big Ten is a couple of teams away from doing the exact same thing. If we only have three conferences, TJ, I loved this tweet that you put out. It's like the stupidest thing that anyone has ever said is that they love a conference. They root for a whole conference or root for a conference. We don't. The logo and keeping the teams together. No, what it's about is the matchups and who we get to pit together. At the end of the day, if tomorrow the Big 12 rebranded itself and called itself the All-State 20 and added 4 more schools, if it means that we get Louisville, West Virginia, if it means we get Baylor and Texas Tech year in and year out, some of the old classics in college football, well, then really all it was a merger of the Big 8 and the Southwest Conference. Once those come back, it doesn't matter what logo is on the conference. No one cares about wearing a hat that has the SEC or the Big, well, they do about the SEC, but the Big 10 or the Big 12 logo on it. all we care about is having what's quintessential in this sport, and those are the matchups that we grew up watching, the matchups we grew up caring about. That's why I think a move like this helps us get back to where we want to be in college football and the game that we love. It gives you year in and year out regional matchups you care about instead of, and this is where I thought the ACC really went wrong, Cal versus NC State or Stanford versus Virginia Tech. Those just don't make you a strong conference.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of the worst things that we've done to our sport with the realignment and the focus on the playoff and expanding everything else. We have lost the meaning of what made college football great, which was an incredible regular season that meant more than the postseason in most regards, and the regionality of rivalries. Right? We are losing that. We are. Hopefully getting back to that. Hopefully if we do get to some kind of a super conference, or if it's 3 leagues or whatever, we can get back to, if everything goes to a super conference and we've got 50 teams in this super conference, then hopefully we can get back to some regionality that actually matters. And you don't have Cal versus Florida State as the dumbest match. Like, why are we doing this? Miami going up to Cal, like, just like, what are we doing here? But we'll see. Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
At Drake C. Toll on Twitter, or at LO Big 12 on the same platform, then wherever you find your podcast with Locked On Big 12.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Always fun, TJ.